Welcome, Toastmasters. My name is Brian Gomes, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Renee Vanderpreit, who won the 2014 District 86 International Speech Contest. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for being with us. I want to start with some background on Renee and his amazing achievement. In the 2014 International Speech Contest, Renee won at the level of club, area, division, and district. He then went to compete in the semifinals in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Had Renee won his semifinal round, he would have been in the finals with the last 9 speakers. Today we are going to talk about his contest experience in 2014 with particular focus on what it's like going into the deeper rounds of the contest. Let's get started. Renee, for those who haven't heard your speech, can you tell us about it and why you think it was so successful?
So the speech, the title of the speech is Sticky Pieces of Masking Tape, which is a little ambiguous to begin with on purpose. The speech is really about a simple yard sale that was done a few years ago and some of the fun events and actually a touching moment that happened during the yard sale. So it kind of brings you on a journey of just some fun, and then a really nice story, and then, you kind of get hit with the message in the end. So after I did the speech at the district, I actually, I myself didn't understand why the speech was being successful, and asked a lot of people, why do you like this speech? And the two things I kind of heard back was, one is that it doesn't come across as a motivational speech. I think sometimes we hear speakers, and within 30 seconds, you basically know what they're going to do. You brace for impact. You know they're going to really try to grab your heart. Whereas the yard sale speech really just entertains and somewhat sneaks up on you with that moment where all of a sudden you feel that your heart perhaps is being touched, and the message that goes along with it. And then the second point I think is just people can really relate to just having a yard sale. A very simple thing. It's a very, everybody does it. Everybody's been to them. And I said it was very relatable, I think, for people to just kind of hear that story and be entertained along the way.
That's excellent. And you mentioned your message. I didn't glean it from the title itself. What was your message?
In the end, the message really was about trying to do these little things in life above, writing your checks and doing your payroll deductions to charities. But it was about trying to find just these little things along the way that you can do for people and kind of make some people's lives better. So it doesn't have to be about the big grandiose gestures. It can be just these little acts of kindness along the way that can touch certain people as you go.
That's excellent. I like the way you said how it didn't come out at you as a motivational speech, but then tugged at you later on.
Right.
Could you take us through the progression from the club contest to the semifinals and how the experience changed as you moved through the levels? Well,
it was an interesting journey, and a lot of people know that I somewhat just kind of fell into it, in that I'm a very new Toastmaster. So last year when the speech contest came up, I knew nothing about the International Speech Contest. And in fact, I was the only one at the club level eligible to compete with 6 speeches. So we didn't really have it. We had a contest, but it's a contest of one. So, winning the contest was no great achievement. So for a while, I really didn't understand what was going on. I went to the area, I went to the division, and I was winning, but I really didn't understand kind of what was happening. And I remember, especially at the division level, when I won, thinking, why did I win? I heard some just incredible speeches. And then same at the district level, kind of getting up on that stage, and the caliber of speeches at the district level were just amazing. And so you really just hear, the speakers get so much better as you go through. And I was extremely surprised when I won the district level. And then when you go to the international level, it is in your face just how good these speakers are. And I think if I have to make a comment about the progression of speeches along the way, I would say that I think at the lower levels, a speaker can get away with being stronger in some areas and maybe a little weaker in other areas. So they can have a really good sound message and speech, but maybe not be as great on the delivery side, or vice versa. But I think as you hit the district and you hit the international, you have to have the entire package, because when you see the speakers in the international stage, I sometimes wonder if they even breathe without thinking about it. Like every motion, every gesture, every facial expression, every word, I feel is planned. So they are a master across the entire spectrum of your technique of giving a speech, where I think, the lower levels, you can rely maybe a bit more on your stronger points and not so much on your weaker points.
That's an excellent insight, and one we might not readily see, that as you progress, they're just performing at all levels of the writing and the delivery. So that's excellent. With your performance at the level of the semifinals, was the stage and audience a lot bigger, not in terms of size, but just in terms of the moment being bigger?
That's an interesting question, because again, certainly audience-wise, absolutely, and stage-wise, much bigger. You're on a stage with these two big jumbotrons on either side of you, and you have a room full of 900,000 people. But I have to say that, for myself at least, the semifinals were almost a little bit of a blur, in that I'd like to make eye contact. I like to look at the people in the audience and see the expressions on the faces. And I felt that at the semifinals, the audience is almost getting so big that it just becomes a blur. And so you don't really make eye contact anymore. You're basically looking over at this side of the audience and this side and this side. Whereas I have much more clearer memories at the district level of seeing people's faces and seeing the smiles, seeing the attention that they were given and giving me. So, again, was it bigger? Absolutely. But it was almost, I was unprepared, to be sure. The pressure, I don't know about the pressure so much. I felt so blessed that I was there anyways, that I really wasn't worried about whether or not I was going to win or not. So I took the experience, and I think if you're really truly going in to win, I think that the pressure, of course, would be daunting.
2 follow-up questions from that. You mentioned 900,000 people. What was the actual number? And when you were done your semifinals, did you think that you might have won?
Well, good. Great. That's a great question. So before the speech, I actually asked the Sergeant of Arms how many chairs were in the auditorium, and there were 1,200. So, and when I went up, I know that along the outskirts there were empty seats and such. So I'm somewhat guessing at the number. I don't know the number per se. I know the conference probably had about, I think, 2,400 people, and there were 3 semifinal rounds going on at the same time, so people kind of had to decide which round they wanted to go to. So, and inherently, I think, you basically take that number and you divide it in 3, and you basically had your numbers. Did I think I won? That's a really great question, because you as you progress, you kind of start believing yourself, and you start believing what people tell you about how great you are and how great the speech is. So, I guess when they announced the results, was I momentarily surprised? I would have to say yes. But then, of course, when I looked at the 3 people who were on stage who got first, second, and third in our semifinal, and thinking about their speeches were just amazing. And again, they brought the entire gamut of the speech, from vocal variety to animating your body to, a good, powerful message. They had the entire package. So it didn't take me long to kind of go, yeah, but I wasn't at that level. I was not at their level.
I'll just say a couple of things there. I should have phrased the question as, did you think you might have won? Because to presume that we had won, it would probably be presumptuous. But it's fantastic to see that you felt that there was a possibility. So you were in the company of your competitors, which is great. A question about your pocket speech. That's the speech you would have used in the finals. What's it like preparing for one when you may never have to use it? And what if you had used it in the semifinals?
Yeah, so the pocket speech, and I didn't even know I had to have a pocket speech until I won the district. So it certainly wasn't as prepared. I did work on it and had some help on it. It certainly was not ready. When I went to the semifinals, it was not ready. So if I had won the semis, I would have spent the next 36 hours or so in my hotel room just trying to nail it. In hindsight, I'm somewhat glad I did not make it to the finals, because I know now that speech was nowhere near the level of the other people who made it to the finals. The finals, you're looking at people who basically are on the verge of being professional speakers, if not already. So I came out of there really understanding what it would have taken to win if I had been on that final stage, and that pocket speech certainly was not at that level. And in fact, I don't know how many people have heard that there was actually one contestant who went to the final stage who got up and said, "I'm sorry, I don't have a second speech," and spent the next few minutes apologizing to his district and apologizing to people, because I think he too just didn't think he was going to win. I don't know how much he had planned to be at the contest and how much he thought he had won, but when he went on the final stage, he had nothing.
That is so interesting. So he had no speech.
He had no speech. So, I struggled with it. I think some of the crowd felt for him and kind of commended him on going up on the stage. I certainly had mixed feelings about it. I think that whoever placed second in his final round probably had a second speech that they could have used. And I think that, truly, there was about 36 hours between the semifinal and the final, that I think you go in your room and you do whatever you have to do to come up with a speech, and maybe it's not even the best, but you get up and you do it. And so I was somewhat disappointed in seeing that, and I think some of the other contestants who hadn't made it to the final round were also a little disappointed. But certainly if you go into the international contest, you got to have two really good speeches ready to go, and I certainly learned that.
Excellent, I agree, and yes, his competitors were probably not very impressed as well. I'd like to give people a sense of how much work is involved. So can you tell us how many times you edited your speech? How many times did you practice your speech? How many times did you practice your speech in front of people and just to yourself?
Yeah, so I would say after I won the district, I certainly, and suddenly realizing what I was in and going to the internationals, I started spending a lot more time. So I think between the club and the district, the speech really didn't evolve all that much. After that, I had some wonderful people helping me out, and the speech really did start to get crafted in many ways. In regards to practicing, I had gone on between the district contest, which was the beginning of April last year, and the semifinals, which was the third week of August. So that's about 4 months. I visited probably 15 to 20 clubs. I did my speeches there. So, and always wanting that feedback. I also probably did it in my bedroom 100 times, and you think you practice enough, but you probably in the end still don't. But I was told by one person once that you should be able to, wake up from a sleep and suddenly do your speech right away. Like, you should know your speech that well. And so I think, while as busy as it was and how much practice I think I got, I certainly think that certainly more practice is needed. Again, I think you need to be at that point where when you're on stage at the finals, that you're not even thinking about what you're saying. You know your speech so well that you don't need to think about the words, so that you can focus completely on your body language. What are your hands doing? What are you shuffling your feet? How are you making sure you have eye contact? I think you have to be at that level where your speech is a given. It just comes out of your mouth, flowing freely, sounding authentic, but you're really not thinking about it because you have other things to think about.
It's great to give Toastmasters an understanding of how much work is involved, and I think that gives us a good idea. Can you practice so much that having a hard time connecting with your speech. That's happened to me in the past. I'm just wondering if you share that same view that you can practice so much. Now I'm having a hard time connecting with it.
I think, yeah, that's tough because, you know, I had something happen 2 weeks before I went to Malaysia. So I was pretty much, I think, at the point where I thought I was ready to go and had practiced at all these clubs and done all this practice. And then I went to a club. It was the Speakeasy in Sarnia, and they taped it for me, which was real nice. So I hadn't seen my speech taped since the very early on. And in the speech, I saw myself make a critical mistake. And I'm not sure how many other people would have seen it or known it, but I certainly looked at it and thought, oh my gosh, I made that mistake and I'm 2 weeks away from Malaysia. And I thought I had my speech down. And that was a moment for me to kind of say, you think you've practiced a lot, but you actually haven't practiced enough because you're still making mistakes. So I think, can you over-practice? Maybe. I don't think I certainly wasn't there. You look at the winner of the international speech and the speech that he used to win, and you can find it on YouTube, and he was doing versions of that speech years ago. So, it was a very comfortable speech to him, a very practiced speech to him. He probably had done it just dozens and dozens and dozens of times. So I'm not sure. If there's a point of over-practice, I don't know where that point is.
And I'll just add that I don't think that people that are making it really, really far into the contest, like the final stage, they are over-practicing. I think I heard Ryan Avery in an interview say that he was going to 11 clubs a week delivering his speech.
Yeah.
In a past interview, you've mentioned that you love speaking in front of people, and I get a sense that you're a natural at this. Many Toastmasters come to Toastmasters because they have a fear of public speaking. Do you think someone can progress far in the contest that doesn't have a natural love or comfort of speaking in front of others?
I think audiences are very perceptive, and I think I think at the lower levels we have. When you're competing at your clubs and your areas and such, there's so much support and so much love that the audience gives you. They have no problems with the fact that they can see some nervousness or they can see people stumbling a bit. That's all part of what Toastmasters is all about, is giving that support. At the international level, I think the coin flips somewhat in that you're really there now being rated as someone who could potentially be a public speaker, a professional public speaker. If you win the contest, it's a beautiful launch pad to do some great things for yourself. So I think, if you're not a natural or if you're nervous, I certainly think that people can deal with that and be very successful, but it's probably going to be a lot of work for them, because I think at that higher levels, you need to look like you are a natural. You need to look like you are comfortable, as if it's the first time you've given the speech. You have to give that audience that feeling that they're hearing something that's very special to you and that you're excited about it. And I just think someone who maybe isn't as comfortable with it, I just think it's maybe a bigger challenge for them, whereas someone who's comfortable speaking, at least they don't have to deal with that nerves part, or that being uncomfortable in front of a group of people, and they can focus a bit more on what they're doing, which is what are they saying, how are they moving.
So I think I'll just paraphrase that by saying the rest of us just might have more work to do, but if we can pull it off and absolutely not look nervous, then we have a shot. Is that a fair way?
I think we've heard. There's been so many speakers who come off stage and say, "Oh, they're still nervous." They're nervous every time they get up in front of an audience, and I think that's probably very normal. But again, that it's that audience perception. I think that you got to be very good at it. So yeah, I would think it's going to be a little bit more work. But then perhaps if you're too comfortable, then you come across as being cocky, and that's going to be seen too. So I think there's a very fine balance between looking very authentic up there, so that the audience can just see someone who just looks comfortable and looks real.
Excellent. Renee, you seem like you found your way into the semifinals rather than it being a plan for you. Did you get a chance to meet the other contestants, and was it a plan for them, or was it accidental, them finding their way into the finals?
Yeah, I did meet we had our group, our 9-10 people in our semifinal. We actually got to know each other. We spent the whole day together, and I got the sense that most people were in this and had planned to be here. And you find at the international level, you'll find people who have been there multiple times. You know, I met Stephen Grant, who is District 60, the Toronto GTA. He was the contest winner there, and I think that was his third time there. So, you know, and you look at the individual who won. He's been there before too. So, I think there are probably more people there who are planning, who are really trying to be there. And I think there are probably fewer people like myself that just kind of fell into it. And then perhaps, you know, as we talked about that one finalist who didn't have a second speech, you know, I wonder how prepared or whether he was, you know, really planning this out versus falling into it as well. But I think for the most part, you know, it's people know what they're into, and they're really planning and really doing their best, and it shows in the caliber of speeches you see at that level. It shows that people have really put some serious time into preparing for it.
Renee, what do you feel is most important as you get deep into the contest? Is it speech value, message, or is it delivery, humor, or is it something else?
I think in the earlier stages, I think the content is very important as you progress through. I think people really want to hear a good story and a good message. I had the feeling that at the international level, the people who succeeded are the ones who delivered it very well. So they were you know, when they moved, everything was exaggerated. Their vocal variety was exaggerated. They were almost showmen on stage. So I almost feel like when you get to that level, it somewhat turns from being from about the content to be about the delivery. And I think the more you can be animated on stage and maybe pull a prop out of your pocket, the more you can look at the people, you know, make big motions, jump around, do things. I think people really want to have that entertainment value in that speech, and maybe are less concerned about the motivational message they're getting at the contest. They want to be entertained, and they want to see someone who can just really impress them in regards to giving a speech.
That is so interesting, Renee, because I honestly thought you were going to say it's about speech value and message, so I learned something there from your perspective.
Well, I saw people, I have memories of hearing speeches at the contest, and I don't remember what their speeches are about, but I remember them on stage. I remember what they did on stage. I remember how they delivered. And you look at the people on the final stage, they were all just amazing speakers from a delivery point of view. So
excellent. Tell us about the coaching you received. How many people were on your team, and give us an idea of their experience levels.
So up to the district level, I literally was just relying on certain people in the district, and I kind of just did it myself. I didn't really, again, not really understanding what was going on. After the district, I had several people kind of come to the table to help me out. You know, one of the big ones was Susan Land Robinson, who was a second-place semifinalist at 2011 speech contest, and I had met with her probably 3 or 4 times at some of these different club visits where she would, you know, do an evaluation in front of the group on my speech, but then we would meet afterwards and she'd sit down with me, and she really helped me in some very critical areas, especially the end. She helped me actually rewrite the end of my speech, just to kind of make a bit more of an impact to the people. And then Susan and Mary McCartney run a speakers think tank that I got to take part in, which is you know, going in for a Saturday, and you do your speech, and they kind of give you some really in-depth analysis. I met with, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Jim Key, who was the 2003 world champ. And he was very enlightening in regards to what to expect at the finals. That's what we had focused on was, you know, what's going to happen in Malaysia, what's going to happen on those big stages. And then I had the truly pleasure of working right before I went to Malaysia with Jeremy Tracy, who is a speaker himself, but he actually has done coaching for some of the biggest names, speakers out there. And he really helped me fine-tune the speech. So, you know, we would sometimes focus on a word, on just replacing one word in the speech. And it's amazing. And I found the whole experience very, very informative in that you can take one word and change it around and really have a big impact on the speech. So those are some of the people that helped me with the actual speech content and delivery. So certainly the speech really did evolve. In visiting all the clubs, what was really nice too is you would get all this feedback from club members. And I really loved getting it because there were very few meetings I would go to where I wouldn't walk out with a little tidbit of kind of like, oh, I like what that person said, and try to incorporate it in. So I was continually taking input from the clubs and continually making very subtle changes to the speech all the way through. And then the last person I think I probably want to acknowledge is Jane Harnadeck, who is the Area 46 governor. And she was more of almost a motivational help to me as I went through all the practice. She went to a lot of the clubs that I went to practice at, and we talked a lot, and we still do. Just kind of helped me just almost through the mental part of it, of understanding and preparing for, you know, being on a bigger stage, and helped me with more of the emotional part of the speeches. So she's become a real friend because of what she did. And all those people just kind of came to the table and helped me out just because. And it was a fantastic experience to go through.
I love hearing this. It gives us such an idea of what's involved in terms of the craftsmanship, continual refining, the experience you drew from, and the generous heart and nature of Toastmasters. So that was a wonderful response, and I loved hearing it.
I can't thank them enough. I hope they hear this, and I'm truly thankful for everybody to help me out. And again, even just the clubs. You know, I'm sure if people could have heard my final speech in the semifinals, that there would be people in clubs going, "Hey, I told him to say that word." You know, because that's the beautiful thing about Toastmasters and the whole evaluation process is people, you know, people come and listen to your speech and they just come at it from a different direction. And you know, they come at you and just go, "Hey, I just had one thought, maybe this," and you think, you know, you're kind of right. I kind of like that, and not everything you like, because it has to be very comfortable for yourself. But you know, truly going around the clubs and getting that feedback is invaluable as you prepare.
This is fantastic. It speaks to me so much because I love to learn from everyone, and anybody who walks into a Toastmasters meeting for the first time we can learn from. So this is great how you take an input from everyone and made your speech better. So it's fantastic to hear. You did not compete in the contest for 2015, so please tell us why, and do you plan on competing in the future?
So it was a very big decision for me to whether I was going to compete or not, and it really came down to two things for myself. One is 2014 for me was just one of the most hectic years I've ever had, and I'm not just talking about Toastmasters. Toastmasters was an element of my year, but I had a lot of things going on the personal front. So I really 2014 for me was just too busy. I couldn't spend enough time with my kids. I missed my summer. Just too much going on. So I certainly, coming out of the speech contest, I felt I want to have a nice easy year this year. I want to have some different focus into a few different areas this year, more on the personal level. But I also, you know, and I think it's coming out in spades in this discussion, is if I'm going to compete again, and I certainly have interest in doing so, but I also, if I'm going to compete, I obviously want to do better. Everybody wants to do better whenever they hit a challenge, and the next time they hit that challenge, they want to see if they can go farther. And I know now kind of what I'm going to need to do. And I didn't feel, once I started really thinking about international speech, which was probably around December-ish, I truly thought, I'm just not going to rush into it. That if I'm going to take a run at this again, I'm going to really make a serious effort to craft some, I hope to be, very exceptional speeches. And I felt that 2015 was just too quick. That I want to spend, I have some ideas, but I just don't have ideas that I believe are strong enough to do well. So I'm going to take the time. And I think the people who do well in the contests take that time to really prepare themselves. So I'm going to take this year and try to develop some speeches that I really like and I think are really strong, and hopefully at the end of the year feel that they're strong enough that I'll actually compete again. But I won't compete again unless I feel I have something that I'm proud of and that I think can actually take me farther.
That's beautiful, because you've achieved such a great result, but you also know what's involved to even go farther, and it just goes to show what truly the depth of the competition is. So that was wonderfully said. Can you tell us what would be a great result for you, or one you'd be happy with, if you competed again in the future?
I would, there's the dreaming part of me. I would love to be on the final stage, and I'm not saying that I want to win the finals, because I'm not sure I actually even do. Due to the expectation it kind of puts on you to now take that and become almost a professional speaker, or to use that bigger. But with a lot of speakers who enjoy being up in front of an audience, with the semifinals, you're looking at 900 to 1,000 people. When you're looking at the finals, the auditorium we were in, you're looking at, I don't know how many, 2,500 people were there. And I think it would be such a thrill to stand on that stage and to speak in front of that many people. So, in the back of my mind, I would have a dream to say I would like to be on that stage and just to be in the final 9 and compete in front of an audience that large. Realistically, of course, I would, my first goal, I think, would be to try to place in the semifinals. So try to be first, second, or third. So try to make it to that level, so at least you kind of place. So I very much like Susan Lamb Robinson, who made second place in her semifinal. It's quite the achievement to win a semifinal, because you're looking at 10 speakers who are all exceptional. So that would be, I think, my first real goal if I were to tackle this again.
Just a couple of comments there. I realized that earlier I thought you had said 900,000, but you were saying 900 to 1,000. So
yeah.
I think I misheard that earlier. And that's wonderful about being on the final stage. Another comment that strikes me is how you want to speak in front of 2,500 people, or how the larger audience excites you. And I'll have to be honest and say, for most Toastmasters, that large audience probably scares them. That's the first thing. And to me, that gives me a sense of why you made it so far, and you belong in that final stage. And I truly hope you do get there.
Thank you.
Renee, what might people not see about going deep into a contest?
I would say, and we kind of touched on it, I would say that as you go deeper, the contest does change, and the expectations on you do change. And the speeches you give at club levels, because it's a fun speech, or things start getting very. I want to use the word serious, but hopefully it's not taken out of context. But you're at a level where you're starting to deal with people who are professional, and you have to be at the top of the game for the entire thing. So it's not about, and the way I took it last year is I took a speech that I enjoyed, and I took it to see how far I could take it. I now know that if I'm going to be on that stage again, that I need to tackle it more from almost the perspective of a professional speaker, to come up with a speech that is at that level of, that almost some of the people would pay for. It's kind of that mindset, right? If you're going to win international speech, you're going to become, paid, if not already be a paid professional speaker. And that's the level you need to be competing at, is you need to have a speech that people would literally pay for, or be a speaker that people would pay to see. And I think that's how you're judged at the international level, as opposed to, club area, division, maybe even district, that you're not judged as a professional speaker. You're judged as just a Toastmaster, just someone who gives a great speech.
Excellent. That's a great insight. It really helps me understand that, thinking about it in terms of, would people want to pay for this speech? Is there enough value there that it could be paid for? So that's a great insight. What was the most enjoyable part of the experience for you?
The most enjoyable moment I remember would be winning the district. I was just humbled. I was shocked, and it's a highlight for me. The winning the district was probably one of the things I remember the most of last year. The most enjoyable part of the experience, and it's now what I continue to enjoy the most, has been the club visits. Is getting out of your club and going to other clubs, speaking, hearing other people speak, other people evaluate, seeing how they run their meetings. I continue to do that as much as I can because it is the part that I truly enjoy the most. I've met so many wonderful people, and it is the best. It is the best going to another club. And when I came back from Malaysia, I actually finished my CC with a speech, and that was the message in the speech, to say, get out of your club, go out. Because the experience of going out to other clubs and speaking there and hearing them and seeing how they run their meetings, it is amazing. And I truly enjoy it. I continue to do. I'm going to speak at the University of Waterloo Toastmasters next week, and I can't wait because it's so much fun to go to another club. So that's what I took out of 2014, is now this love and this enjoyment of going out and meeting other Toastmasters and not sitting in your own club and just staying within your four walls.
A few thoughts on this, Renee. Recently, I've had the opportunity to visit a few clubs, and I so very much agree with you. It just pushes yourself. It scares you a little bit in going out, meeting new people who don't know where you're at, and you kind of have to prove or show yourself all again. And it's wonderful. So I very much agree. You learn and see different things, meet great personalities. It's one of my beliefs that you can go to a Toastmasters meeting anywhere in the world and meet tremendous people. So you're always going to meet fantastic people. So very much agree with getting out of your club. Renee, what's next for you?
So, as I talked about the international speech and perhaps kind of working on some speeches through the year. We've been working at our club level. Our club was struggling as of the fall last year, and so we've been doing a fair bit of work in the club at the membership level, and I'm happy to say that our club is actually quite strong now. We've actually had a very successful membership campaign. And I've actually been involved a bit in the international speech this year. I was able to be a judge at one of the London clubs. I'm going to be the Area 46 contest chair at the beginning of April, and I have the honor to be the contest chair at the District 86 level, where I'll hand in this big trophy that I got over to our next winner. So a little bit involved in the international right now, and just really gathering my thoughts for my next run at the contest, and still visiting clubs as much as I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I just want to add a comment before for your last question. It's amazing that you went to Kuala Lumpur, went to the semifinals, and you had not yet completed your CC. So to me, that's fantastic. A lot of times we measure people's progress in Toastmasters by how many speeches they've done, and there's definitely different yardsticks and experience levels, even for people who have just done far fewer speeches.
Right.
Renee, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there something that I haven't asked that you feel our listeners should know or that you would like to share?
I think this is just an amazing opportunity, and I hope people got from it. I just want to take the opportunity just to thank everyone. I could not have been welcomed better last year by the different clubs and people reaching out to me. And I won the contest at the district level. I had people right there and then asking me to come to their clubs and speak, and just the open arms that the district has given and the support. It has just been an amazing experience, and it's all been about the district and the support that I've gotten and the friends that I've made, and it has been just truly an amazing thing. And I just have to thank everybody who has been part of that journey. And it has just been. I'm blessed. I'm deeply honored and humble on the whole thing. And I just can't wait to crown our next District 86 champion there at the end of April, and do everything I can to help that person prepare for and succeed. And I hope that winner just has a tremendous journey, just like I did.
Renee, that's beautiful. It just speaks to your generous heart. It speaks to the generous hearts of Toastmasters. It speaks to the amazing experience you had in 2014 and how you can help others going forward. So it's beautiful. Renee, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It was really a pleasure and a privilege. I learned so much insights, really what's involved, and I know our listeners do. So can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Renee.